Hi, I'm Dr. Hackie Reitman. Welcome to the second part of our special two-part episode of Exploring Different Brains. What we're doing is we're taking the highlights of the amazing interviews of 2017 with neurodiversity leaders from all over the world, and in this second part, we're going to bring you parents, advocates, specialists, experts from all around the globe to tell us their approach to different brains. We're going to start out with Dr. Christopher Stout, who has helped people all over the world. Quote, health is perhaps the most common denominator in a region's potential for success, as it is so intertwined with economic sustainability, eradicating poverty, preventing war, mitigating violence, and fostering social prosperity. Can you expound upon that in terms of acceptance of mental health and everything we're talking about here?
I had worked at the United Nations 1998, 1999, and one of the things that I worked on was the aspect of looking at mental health and substance abuse vis-a-vis sustainable development. And sort of the argument or the thesis that I had in that, which relates back to the quote that you very generously used, was that if without mental health there is no health, so to speak. That issues of you can be needing this kind of assistance regardless of whatever kind of circumstance you're in, and if you're not getting that, it's going to be hard to be a good parent. It's going to be hard to be a good worker. It's going to be hard to be a good contributor to your community or to your tribe or whatever. And it makes it really, ironically, I think, a fundamental aspect of being successful in every other aspect of one's life. Even if you're, biologically, so to speak, or physically fit or healthy, if you are suffering with debilitating chronic clinical depression, you're not going to be able to go work. You're not going to be able to support a family.
Dr. Bankole Johnson.
It's really very curious, and I think it dates back to a few hundred years, whereby people tried to separate the mind from the body, in some way as if there were two components of a system that never really talked to one another. And this mind was meant to be some higher order type of cognitive thinking, and the body was meant to be basically the mechanics, and they were not connected. So when you go and see someone because you have a mental health issue, people believe that it must be due to something to do with this nebulous concept of a mind, and that it's somehow your responsibility while you're ill, or at least partially your responsibility, and it has nothing to do with your body. Well, we now know that this is completely incorrect. The brain is the most complex organ in the universe. It has connections with your heart. It has connections with basically almost everything else. And to give your friend the heart analogy, we now know that individuals who have heart disease often also have mental manifestations of that heart disease, and brain stress or stress in the brain is also associated with myocardial infarction or cardiac arrest and cardiovascular disease. So it's one system. I think some people like to make it simple, but as my professor used to say, it can only be as simple as it really is.
Denise Resnick.
For most of us, we've had options as our lives have changed, as we've learned, as we've become employed, as we've had, have been married and had a life. And so we want more options for people for where they go after they leave their family home, and then to allow them to grow, to set the bar much higher than it was set for me and for our family when we were told 24 years ago to plan to love, accept, and institutionalize our son because there's no hope for people with autism. And I committed back then, and I remain committed now, that is not the option, the only option for people with autism. There are so many more. And we're trying to be an example so that when a child is diagnosed today, we can not only tell that family that they can have a job and a home and friends and a supportive community we can actually show them. And what a different lifestyle that represents for a family who's just had a diagnosis of autism, to set the bar much, much higher than it was set for us. And we all know the difference that hope can make in any of our lives, to get out of bed in the morning or get out of the closet or wherever we might be hiding from, to recognize that it is another day. There's more that we can do, and that we can all have greater hope for a future. That's what all of us deserve.
Dr. Gail Saltz.
It's so awful to a parent, is so stigmatizing and upsetting that to some degree, not consciously, but unconsciously, parents, don't notice the symptom because they can't bear the idea that, maybe my child really has whatever it is. I think that if we as a nation could, bring brains into the same place as you just pointed out, that we bring pancreases and hearts and livers and other organs that we don't have a problem talking about or going to the doctor for, that parents would recognize what is happening with their child and bring them for the treatment that they need.
Lynn Miner Rosen.
For parents, I think the biggest thing is to realize that ADHD is not their fault. They're not lazy, they're not stupid, they're wonderful, incredible people that need a boost in self-confidence, and they need encouragement, and they need positivity. Their whole life they're getting, hurry up, quit, just stop doing that, do something else, what's wrong with you, you can do this, and they're not given enough positive reinforcement.
Denise Karp.
I guess the biggest challenge is being able to navigate through the landmines of different people with such strong opinions that they maybe they don't mean to be nasty or insulting, but when their own belief system is challenged, they lash out. So Denise's list is a moderated listserv. That means that I have to approve everything before it goes on. This is the reason why it is still here 15 years later, because otherwise people would have been stalking off in just high anger. That is the challenge, keeping everybody civil and not distributing those posts that are not. So I have to read every single one of the posts before it gets distributed.
Michael Alessandri.
Who decides what's beneath or above somebody? Right? Every individual, with a disability or not, gets to determine where they want to work, how they want to work, where they want to live, how they want to live. It's not up to us to judge that. And I think it's a huge mistake for people to judge something as being too beneath somebody. That job is, it could be a final job for someone, and that could be absolutely brilliant, or it could be a stepping stone to some other job once they have learned some fundamental job skills. But I can tell you, in the car wash, those young adults with autism that are working there are not only earning a wage for the first time in many cases, they have created social relationships with people in their workplace that they never had before. They are going out together on their own, they're hosting events, not with the owners facilitating or coordinating. They have created a social niche for themselves that they didn't have before. They have developed empathy for their fellow workers. Guys are volunteering to go and pick someone up who might have to take 2 or 3 buses in order to get there. They would never have done that before in some cases.
Dan Habib.
I do a lot of my film work is set in schools. And I really think, I think teachers work incredibly hard. I have so much respect for them. I mean, we're always asking them to do more and more and more. But I think that one of the ways education is changing that helps the neurodiverse population and kids like my son and your child is to do something that's called universal design for learning, which means just like a building can be universally designed so that anybody can get into it. It might have accommodations for people who are blind or deaf, has automatic doors for people that use wheelchairs. Education can be that way. There can be a lot of access points. So for instance, when my son in his English class, he has great English teachers, they might assign an assignment to him or to the whole class. They might say, listen, you can listen to this, you can watch a video about it, you can do a skit, you can read about it, you can go out, you can go into the community and learn about it that way. So you're giving kids 5 different ways. So all different kinds of learners can find their passion, their way to do it. And then when it comes time to show what you can write a poem, perform a dialogue with somebody or skit. You can do a short film, which Samuel often does as his homework assignments. He makes a short video or a film. So I think it's important to give kids in the school realm lots of different ways to explore those passions. Because, a kid might think they hate history until they watch that documentary that Ken Burns just made on Vietnam, and say, wow, history is actually fascinating now that I can experience it this way.
Exploring Different Brains is a production of Different Brains, Inc. For more information, visit us at differentbrains.org.